But when you see someone like Stephen A. Smith, what do you think? I mean, I just think he's clearly flirting with this. He's getting more popular. I think people really like him. He's articulate. He's intelligent. He's strong. I see him standing up to LeBron James and stuff when they have spats or whatever. He's clearly got a fearless streak in him. Why not Stephen A. Smith?
Yeah. So I want to have a clarifying conversation here, and I want to offer you a better celebrity than Stephen A. Smith. Look, I got no problems with the brother, and I'm not trying to hate, okay? But, I mean, saying the first thing he'd do is economics. What does that mean? What's the policy behind economics? He said he checked with his pastor. I think it's more likely that he checked with his publicist.
In today's video, Cenk Uygur absolutely destroys Piers Morgan for his idiotic take in a heated debate. Piers Morgan really said Stephen A. Smith would make a great US president, and Cenk Uygur did not let that slide. Cenk calls out the absurdity of elevating media personalities to the highest office just because they're loud, confident, or entertaining on TV. Piers tries to defend it, of course, but Cenk brings the receipts, reminding everyone that charisma isn't a substitute for policy chops or leadership experience. So let's dive in and watch how Cenk Uygur shuts down Piers Morgan in this heated debate.
But it's okay. It's okay. God bless, to each his own, okay? So I'll get to the celebrity in a second. But guys, there's three wings of the Democratic Party. It's driving me crazy that you all are talking about it in a way that makes no sense, and you lump in people that don't belong together. I get why. But so the three wings are what you guys keep talking about: radical left, woke left, whatever you want to call it, right? But then you've got the establishment, and that's the part that you guys never talk about. So that's the Kamala Harris, Joe Biden. They're not woke. That's not their problem. Their problem is that they were elitist, served the donor class, or establishment figures. Hillary Clinton, same exact thing. Hillary wasn't woke at all. She was just establishment 101. Those are two different problems. Then there's a third wing that I'm in, which is economic populism, that Ro Khanna's in, Nina Turner's in. So Nina Turner brings in basically the black wing of the populist movement and talking about the freedom budget that the civil rights movement talked about. Why? It's an economic issue. It's about populism. It's about raising wages. So what do we focus on? How can the Democratic Party win? That's the most important thing. So higher wages, lower drug prices, lower housing prices, paid family leave, anti-war, money out of politics. These are all Democratic policies that are all intensely popular, over 2/3 for each one of those things. So, you know, we talk about, oh, Stephen A. Smith gets a lot of airtime. He does, but why? You know, you guys mentioned Wes Moore. Wes Moore's an incredibly charismatic guy. I'm not sure that's the candidate that I want, but I'd be open to it. But he just doesn't get enough airtime, right? Same thing for Ro Khanna, wonderfully articulate. Geraldo's complimented him in the past, and he's a really smart guy. But not just that. Then we've got some real populists like Richard Ojeda running in North Carolina 9. And he served 24 years in the Army, ain't nothing to do with woke. It's about delivering for the average American. But Piers, if we want to be obsessed with celebrities, why not Jon Stewart? Jon Stewart's the only celebrity who's actually gotten a bill passed when he wasn't even in Congress. It was spectacular. It was amazing. If I could take Stephen A. Smith's hype and his chutzpah and the way that he gets out there and runs to the spotlight and put it on Jon Stewart, we'd have a winning combination.
Cenk Uygur absolutely nails it here. Piers Morgan tossing out Stephen A. Smith as a potential president sounds like classic celebrity worship politics, and Cenk rightly wasn't having it. Sure, Stephen A. is a sharp and entertaining guy, but entertaining doesn't equal qualified. Cenk shifts the convo to what actually matters: policy, vision, and results. He breaks down the real factions within the Democratic Party, not just the lazy woke left label the media loves. And more importantly, he reminds everyone that the real winning formula isn't just about charisma. It's about delivering on economic populism, higher wages, lower drug costs, affordable housing, ending endless wars, stuff the majority of Americans actually want. He even throws out Jon Stewart as a better celebrity example, and honestly, that's hard to argue with. Stewart's done more for veterans than most elected officials, and he did it without needing a seat in Congress. So yeah, Stephen A. can dominate sports debates, but running the country, Cenk's right. Let's leave that to people with a plan, not just a platform.
You know what I would say to that? And it's interesting. I love Jon Stewart. But I think if you walked around with Jon Stewart and Stephen A. Smith in LA or New York, you're right. Okay? The smart crowd would all rush up to Jon Stewart. You're the Messiah. If you took them both down to Florida, to Texas, to Alabama, right? To middle America, if you took the pair of them down there, it would be the other way round. You would see the people on the streets resonating far more with Stephen A. Smith than they ever would with Jon Stewart. Jon Stewart, in a way, is a kind of elitist himself. I mean, he's brilliant, but he's part of the elite comedic establishment. He is. Come on, he's a multimillionaire comedian.
But then why isn't Stephen A. Smith elitist? No, you can't have
because
both ways.
I think the sport,
you can't say that Jon Stewart's elite
I tell you
because
why,
he's a
in a
celebrity,
way, if you,
but Stephen A. Smith isn't elite, even though he's a celebrity.
I think
that doesn't make any sense.
Because he commentates on a sport which is about as far from elitist in terms of where most of the players come from that you could imagine. Right? Because they're mostly working class Americans.
There isn't one thing Jon Stewart has done that's elitist. There isn't one thing.
No, I think by definition, if you're part of
wonderful people,
I would say if you're part of the New York elite comedic TV set, you are by definition part of the media establishment. Let's put it like that.
How is Stephen A. Smith not part of the TV set? I mean, the man is glued to the TV. And why are we having a conversation between Stephen A. Smith and Jon Stewart?
Because I think they're very different.
You know what?
Let me ask the biggest TV star. Let me ask the biggest TV star of the four of us, of five of us, and that is. Sorry, Cornell, it's not you.
David Chappelle to run. He got some good talent.
I'm going to ask Geraldo, who is by far the biggest TV star of the five of us. Geraldo, Jon Stewart v. Stephen A. Smith. Your thoughts?
I like Jon Stewart a lot. I think he is brilliant in his comedy, his sarcasm, and I think that's his greatest strength, is his strong suit. But I don't think sarcasm sells the way populism does. Stephen A. Smith has indicated and gives off the vibe. Sometimes it's indescribable.
He's from the Bronx.
A mystery where it comes from.
He's from the Bronx.
It's a charisma that Trump has. Trump is Trump is the biggest movie star on earth right now.
Yeah.
He's charismatic. He's magnetic. He's someone who I think that he's survived these 100 days, sometimes catastrophes of his own making, but he has emerged. He had the great meeting with the Canadian Prime Minister today. I think that I want to add quickly, parenthetically, I also don't want you to exclude Sean Hannity. I think it would be a wonderful candidate for president. And either of the Cuomo brothers, Andrew, the former governor who's now running and is the probable next mayor of New York, and also Chris Cuomo, who I submit was the first to recognize in Stephen A. Smith this possibility. However unrealistic it may be, that Stephen A. Smith might be a viable candidate. But I think the main point that we are all talking about and avoiding is that the Democrats have to shake off what they have done up until now. They have failed utterly. They failed when they did not bounce Joe Biden from the candidacy long before, where it was recognized he was borderline dementia. And I love the guy, and he's only 8 months older than I am. I feel regret that he did not have the grace and the pragmatism to withdraw much earlier. And so the Democrats could have had a primary. I don't think Kamala Harris would have won that primary, even if it was a quick one on a short schedule, if you remember how she bombed the last time she tried. And I think that she's also going to be an awful candidate for governor of California, and the Republicans will have an opportunity there.
Now, Geraldo compares Stephen A's charisma to Donald Trump's, but charisma alone doesn't fix a crumbling healthcare system, stop climate change, or balance the budget. Trump's presidency proved what happens when you elevate personality over policy: record deficits, botched crisis management, and a legacy of chaos. We don't need another vibe candidate. We need someone with a real grasp of policy governance and how to navigate complex institutions, not someone who thrives on monologues and ESPN theatrics. And the suggestion that Sean Hannity or either Cuomo brothers should be in the running That's just recycling cable news personalities as if they're political saviors. The presidency isn't a Fox News panel or a CNN segment. It's the hardest job in the world. What's more concerning is that this kind of pundit to president pipeline fantasy completely ignores the fact that there are actual policy-driven, experienced public servants out there. People like Katie Porter, Ro Khanna, or even Jon Stewart, if we're talking about celebrity with substance, who've already proven they can do the work or meaningfully advocate for real reform.
What I'm trying to get at is independence, because that's who you need to win elections, right? We need to get real here. So the problem with being woke isn't someone who's gay. Who cares if they're gay or straight, etc.? That's not the issue at all. So you could say, hey, some of the DI went too far, the transport stuff issues went too far, but that isn't about being gay or not being
Crazy.
gay. No, the problem with Buttigieg has nothing to do with that. The problem with Buttigieg is that he appeals to the elites. He's a super smart guy. So when he goes on TV and he talks about how he speaks 6 languages, all the elites are like, yes, Buttigieg, he's so Harvard educated, right? But that doesn't appeal to the average guy. That's not going to win over independents. That's his actual problem. By the way, Andrew Cuomo is also part of the establishment. Sean Hannity is also part of the establishment. What does the establishment always want? Serve the donors, serve the donors. That's the problem with Buttigieg. That's the problem with all those guys. What are we doing as economic populists? Look, I started Rebellion Pact. We're building a team. We're building a team. So you give me any one of those guys and our team is going to win, because we've got all these different people in there. Khanna is so strategic and smart, and Ojedi's like a lead pipe. He's a populist. Then you got Nick Hanauer, who's a super smart guy. He's not part of Rebellion Pact or anything, but he's part of our allies. And he's got a middle out strategy. That's an economic model where you give to the middle class. Stop giving to the rich.
Okay.
Give to the middle class.
No.
And the middle class then spends the money, and then it creates a healthier economy.
Okay,
it's both
let me bring
correct,
in-
But
it's smart, and it's also electorally the right strategy.
Cenk Uygur is absolutely right when he says the Democratic Party needs to stop chasing elite approval and start speaking directly to working and middle-class Americans. The next Democratic candidate can't be another polished, consultant-coached, donor-friendly insider who sounds great on MSNBC but makes zero connection in places like Michigan, Wisconsin, or Pennsylvania. Cenk's criticism of Pete Buttigieg isn't about identity, it's about appeal. Being a Rhodes Scholar doesn't mean much to voters struggle with rent, medical debt, or stagnant wages. Voters want someone who understands their economic pain and has a plan to do something about it. Talking about 6 languages doesn't hit the same as talking about a $15 minimum wage, lowering prescription drug costs, or stopping price gouging by corporations. That's why economic populism is the winning message, and why Cenk's push for a middle-out strategy like Nick Hanauer's makes sense. Data backs this up. Polls consistently show that most Americans across party lines support raising taxes on the wealthy, expanding Medicare, and cracking down on corporate monopolies. Those aren't radical ideas, they're majority-supported kitchen table priorities. Pause. Are you getting tired of getting half the story from biased news sources? One outlet says one thing, and another says the complete opposite. How are you supposed to know what's actually true? That's where ground news comes in. It lets you compare how different media outlets, left, right, and center, are covering the same story. So you can see the full picture instead of just the echo chamber. And here's the best part. Click the link in the description and get 40% off the Vantage tier, which gives you even deeper insights into media bias and political trends. Stay informed, think for yourself, and check out ground news in the description down below.